Does Superman prefer Lois as a blonde, a brunette, or a redhead? Oh, and also he discovers his origins and kryptonite. But that's not important. What hair color does he like? This face on the cover says, "Please stay away from me, Lois." Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes, truly wherever our whims take us. Kryptonite, it's become part of common parlance. There's a definition in the dictionary, there's a song with some very mixed metaphors. It's something that some people just say casually. You're my kryptonite. There are also multiple colors, but where did it come from? I mean, it's out of story origin. We know that it comes from Krypton. You know what? I'm gonna throw a time recording in there. You never know with these retcons. Sometimes they get out of hand. Well, Kryptonite's first appearance wasn't in the comics, but actually on the radio serial, The Adventures of Superman. In fact, it would take 6 years for it to transfer over from radio to comic. Now, there are tales surrounding why it was created for the radio show, and this is the most circulated. The story goes that the filming time for these shows was intense, and that Bud Collyer, who played Superman, wanted to be able to do things like take time off. But they often needed Superman, so it was hard to work around. What to do with the Man of Steel? Well, why not a weakness that would take him out of commission? And so Kryptonite was invented, and when a weakened Collyer wasn't there, they would have somebody else do the voice of groans, so a groan extra. You just get called in to do the voice of Superman in pain. What a job. Superman's pain double. Now, there are some who have contested this story and feel it is apocryphal, meaning that something that people haven't verified but circulated so much at this point that it's become a form of its own truth, an urban legend as it were. Some historians say that he could take time off and this wasn't necessary, and that if this did happen, it was just a side perk. I don't know. It does sound plausible, doesn't it? There are, however, alternate reasons for why it could have been introduced, this from a narrative perspective, and we'll get there in a moment. The Adventures of Superman episode where Kryptonite debuted was called The Meteor from Krypton, and it was broadcast in June of 1943. The substance would make its comic debut in Superman 61 in 1949. It would be brought in by editor Dorothy Woolfolk, who was at the time an editor for All American Publications, which was one of the 3 companies that would eventually become DC. She brought Kryptonite in because she felt that Superman's invulnerability was boring, and she felt that all good heroes have an Achilles heel built in, some kind of weakness, and it was also very poetic that his weakness would come from his home world. Love side note, because I love love. Dorothy Woolfolk met her 3rd husband, William Woolfolk, after she rejected one of his Superman scripts. I'm telling you, love is out there, lurking in corners. Now, Superman 61 isn't only special because it's the first appearance of Kryptonite in the comic book universe, but also because it's where Clark learns his own origin, which seems like a much bigger deal than how they play it. In this period, Superman's lore was growing, expanding, and some of the questions around it were being answered as they went along, and some things were just being tweaked. For example, Jor-El's name going from just Jor-El with just the letter L to Jor-El. There's also an appearance of that in this story. Over time, Superman was becoming more and more complex, more fleshed out. They'd actually try and canonically reconcile some of these differences later on. This by saying because some things took place on alternate Earths, suspend disbelief, or excessive pedanticism, creating a web that can never fully be untangled. I think the choice is obvious. Convoluted mess, here we come. But not yet. Now is just the beginning. Superman 61. I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Join us in this comic book journey. Now, this is the 3rd Superman story in the comic. The first are actually by William Woolfolk, including the which hair color should Lois have story. If that one got through, I really want to know what the script was that got rejected. This story is Superman returns to Krypton, and the teaser page with a horrified Superman watching Krypton explode highlights an interesting fact, that while we the audience know Superman is from Krypton and that it exploded, he himself at the time didn't. It's an interesting reminder that we the reader have access to different information than the characters in the story, and hence stories can be approached differently. It's why sometimes the solutions proposed for certain storylines can really work or not work if you take into account characters and universe perspectives. It's also how things can slip through the cracks. It's like nobody thought, does Clark know where he came from? Just because everybody else did. Our story opens with Lois getting an assignment. There's a fake fortune teller afoot, a Swami Riva, and Perry wants Lois to go undercover as a socialite to go and get a reading. But really, she's gonna ask the hard questions. Sounds exciting. Perry tells her to be careful, but she says she's not worried. But Superman, who is eavesdropping, well, he is. So he decides to follow her as Superman. It's all going well until Lois's purse gets knocked off the table, and right there inside, right on top of the things that spills out, is her press pass. Well, fake Swami Riva isn't here for that. I'll tell you your fortune free of charge. I foresee your future, and it looks dark. Very dark, snooper. Lois starts bellowing for help, and Superman is right there. He knows the drill. Riva tries to bluff his way out of it by awkwardly casting a hex, just a made-up hex right there on the spot. But to his amazement, it actually works. Strange. I feel all my strength draining.
out of me.
Puzzled, the cowardly swindler throws up his hands in fright, and to his astonishment, one hand connects and knocks out Superman. Reva is thrilled and feels this must mean that he truly does have astral powers. And instead of killing them both, or at least Superman, and leaving Lois there to tell the tale to report it, he just leaves. Gloating, that's all the reward he needs. Am I too dark for the Golden Age? Probably by this point, but not for the beginning. My darkness would be at home in the beginning. Superman revives moments later and he can't explain what happened. Thankfully, Perry's willing to sweep this under the rug because he worries that if they publish this story, there's gonna be widespread panic. It'll cause a crime spree for sure, but Superman says he's pretty sure that Reva's already telling people, and he is. He's out there trying to get henchmen because he says that he can take care of Superman and they can steal whatever they want. You know how he could have guaranteed that? Killing him. Now you may have gleaned already that the jewel in question that is causing this is the jewel on his turban. And yes, it's red. Kryptonite was red in its first appearance. It wouldn't be standard for Kryptonite to be green until 1951. So for now it's red, but without the hilarious effects that red Kryptonite causes.
No autographs.
Clark is shaken up by what happened, but when he gets a tip about a heist about to go down, he springs into action. This was a thing back in the day, the idea that people knew that Clark and Superman were friends, and so they'd call Clark with scoops or tips about crimes to get him to tell Superman. If I was Lois, I'd be really upset. She's clearly much closer to Superman. Superman shows up at the warehouse, but then who else loves that his incantation starts with the word sham? And it works, and he gets beaten up by the henchmen, who again just leave him there. Why is no one taking proper advantage of this? I need to go to Metropolis and start a gang. I'll get it done. This one does make the papers. It isn't true, is it, Pop?
I'm afraid so, son.
Wow, the people in Metropolis are high maintenance. No wonder John wants to put him in a bottle. Reva is planning to use his powers to extort rich people. Why even go pulling heists when he can get the money to come to him? He does it all by mail, just letters saying you better do it or else sham kazam. Or at least that's what I like to think they say. We don't actually get to see what they say. We just see the people reacting to them. The people do comply though, because they think if he can hex Superman, what chance do they have? Superman meanwhile has gone into research mode. He knows that there must be something going on here and he needs to figure out what. First he looks into Swami Reva, real name Dan Rivers. He used to work at a carnival with a partner named Mooch Carlin. Oh come on now, Mooch? So it turns out that Dan was looking to go into the fake mystic racket and he wanted to get a jewel to make himself look more legit, to get some fortune teller cred. But he couldn't afford a proper jewel, so he just picked up a cheap one from the jewelers, from Acme Jewelers. He must have been really broke, didn't even get an anvil or anything. When Superman tracks down the gem, the owner has another one, but smaller, and it also makes Superman feel very weak. So he decides that he has to know where the stones come from, and so he tracks down who found them. That person says that he thinks they are meteorites, and so Superman takes to space. Whizzing through space, Superman trails the meteorites back in time and stellar space. Superman ends up on Krypton, where he observes their advanced culture. Engineering at 5, geometric shapes on all shirts.
That man, he looks more like me than I do.
This is of course Jor-El, back from yet another why won't the council believe me trip. And then the planet explodes because he meant right now. The rocket has enough room for both Kal-El and his mother Lara, but she decides to stay behind with Jor-El. Superman, not having a clue as to what's going on yet, is very invested.
The death of a world. I wonder if this infant will survive. I've got to know.
And so he follows the rocket until it lands on Earth in front of his parents.
That infant is me, back in the past.
Le gasp.
Now I understand why I'm different from Earthmen. I'm not really from Earth at all. I'm from another planet, the planet Jor-El called Krypton.
So at last, after all these years, Superman is at last aware of his birthplace. So at last, okay. And why he is the strongest person on Earth. He then understands that these jewels, these pieces from Krypton have somehow been transformed because of the explosion that took place when the world died. This is explanation circa 1949. Now he knows what he's dealing with. I guess he has pushed the whole I'm an alien aside for now. Compartmentalization, there are fake mystics about. So upon their next encounter, he just blows the turban off of Dan's head. And he has the Kryptonite delivered to a waterfront address with a trap door. This so he can just activate the trap door and dump it into the ocean because he still can't actually handle it or touch it. And the radio then announces that Superman must have been faking that hex, that it must have been a hoax for reasons. Superman must have had a good reason. That announcement would disturb me so much more than the idea that he got hexed in the first place. But that's just me. And so Superman stands gazing out over a sunset, saying he hopes he never encounters Kryptonite again. Poor deluded Clark. There had come to be so much Kryptonite at one point that they would try and eradicate it in a 1970s storyline by turning it into K-Iron. This in Superman 233, Kryptonite Nevermore, where a byproduct of the adventure is that all of the Kryptonites are turned into harmless iron. But we'd start using Kryptonite again, it'd be reintroduced. And then they would try and get rid of it again in Superman and Batman, The Search for Kryptonite. I actually really like that one, but we can't put the Kryptonite back into the box. We can't put it back on Krypton. I really feel like they glossed glossed over the whole I'm an alien thing, but that really felt more like editorial housekeeping, like, okay, he knows now, we're all on the same page. This is a decent Golden Age story. The fake Swami plot isn't amazing, especially in how he keeps not taking his opportunities for no reason. But the introduction of Kryptonite is handled very well. You have a nervous, vulnerable Clark who's encountering something he's never encountered before, and he really does look scared in these panels. It's good art. He then uses his skills to research the problem, and he goes on a very methodical and well thought out search and ends up back in his tragic past. And the idea of Superman having actual weaknesses, not just, oh no, what if my friends or family get hurt, but also his own physical vulnerabilities, does help add stakes and expand the amount of stories you can tell. Yeah, they do go overboard with it, with all of the different kryptonites. I see you, orange kryptonite, animal powers, rawr, manimal. But when dialed back and used sparingly, Kryptonite is still pretty cool. So yeah, there it is, Green K, as Clark sometimes called it. What do you think of this story? Are you a fan of Kryptonite? What's your favorite color? Share all your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this time your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.